Where is I have no chapstick. That's okay. I have my saliva.
Go get your chopstick if you want.
Okay,
Will it be
that should be the
distracting for
start
you?
of the podcast episode. Mary, can you just include that as the start of the podcast episode? Hi, Haley. How are you?
Hi, Sarah. Good. How are you?
Good. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited to connect finally. We've been trying to make shit happen for months. You guys don't even know. We
Yeah, we've
don't.
had we've had like plane conversations and hotel stay conversations.
Yeah, road trip conversations, but shit didn't align in person, and that's okay. I had big ideas, but it didn't align. That's okay.
And we're here.
um,
We made it.
exactly. I'm so excited to have Haley on the podcast because she was just like, I think I asked my intuitive storytelling students to like write me the transformation of what they experienced through learning in my course. And if you guys don't know about intuitive storytelling, it's where I literally have my whole process written out step by step of how I prep for weddings, what I ask couples, how I prep my couples, um, how I create different composition and how I utilize different lighting scenarios, and then full on behind the scenes footage of me documenting a full wedding day where, like, in the moment, you see how the photos are turning out, you see the settings, you see me like raw, real talking to people and even pausing to like talk to you and explain some things. And some random funny moments where I end up eating popcorn in the corner of the screen because the guys are doing something so funny. I'm just like, I pulled out a popcorn and I'm just eating it as a joke. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just so proud of this course. It's literally like my life's work in a course, my 12 years of understanding my philosophy and creating my own philosophy on documenting wedding days intuitively. And yeah, I'm just so excited to chat with Haley, like real time, live, really understand how this has helped her photography business and her. So yeah, I'm so excited to dive in. And I think my first question, Haley, is yeah, I think let's go with what even attracted you to being like, oh my gosh, this course is for me. Like, I need to learn this stuff. Like, why did you sign up for the course?
Such a good question. So it's kind of multi-tiered. I actually reflected on this a bit. I have notes here, so if I'm referring down, that's why. Um, so I had been doing weddings for about 6 years before I found your course, before I found your podcast. What first introduced me to you was your podcast. And it was so accidental. I'm not someone who I do learn via podcasts, but I never once used podcasts for photography help. I'm not sure why. I was more so like either self-taught or learning from people on like during wedding days out in the field of photography. So when I found your podcast, I actually this is like a funny anecdote. I was working full time as a marketing director. I found it during a marketing conference that I was attending that was like sponsored by the company, and I hope that my boss never hears this, but my former boss never hears this, but I was so engrossed by what you were saying. And it was like lightning struck my brain. Like, I was like, oh my God, this doesn't have to be so hard. Right. So I devoured your podcast. And I think I told you that before. Like, I needed more. And I was like, I feel like I should pay Sarah just because I've listened to every second of your podcast.
Aw.
And I don't know what else to do now. So I was like, next step, I just buy all of her things in her product suite. That's what happens, right?
I totally, oh my God, I love that you shared that. Like that's so special to me because for other entrepreneurs that I like look up to and inspire me, I've done the same thing where I'm like, I have gotten so much from you for free. You have changed my life already. I just want to take my money. I need to pay you. Like, so that's so sweet of
Yeah.
you to say.
I even went into your courses because I bought all three of them. I went into them feeling like I was a star student already, if that makes sense. Like, I already knew the verbiage, like I knew lingo, and I still obviously ended up taking away so much from the courses, but it was nice because I knew what I was getting myself into. I trusted that you would guide me well. So I definitely found the course through, I think I got your marketing one first because it was earlier on. I had just, revamped my website, and I was in the process actually of getting to my current website now, working with a brand strategist and designer. Um, and I also like the time that I found you, it was so perfect because I had gone away to Europe for a whole month and I completely unplugged from work. It was exactly what I didn't know I needed. And when I
Mhm.
got back, I was feeling completely re-energized. I knew I needed to shift something because I was on the verge of I was thinking in my head, I need to leave my full-time job soon. And I don't know how, I don't know where to start. I was scared as hell. And the other thing I was feeling, I like knew that I was misaligned with not only my editing style, just as of last year. Like at this time last year, my edits were completely different, and now I finally feel like I'm in the perfect spot.
Yeah,
So when I got back,
that's a big win. Let's pause for
oh
that
my
one because oh
god,
my god, photographers and that, like, so happy you're there.
seriously, and like it takes so much. There's so much investment and trial and error, like buying other people's presets because you think you know how it's going to turn out,
Yeah, but it
and
looks different
I
on your own work. It's so weird. Like,
it is crazy. Like you
yeah,
could really trust an ad and you're like, okay, this is the one. And then you tweak it. So eventually I just kind of morphed a bunch. I made my own. Now I
yeah.
feel better.
Mhm.
And it's just the other thing that you could definitely relate to and that listeners can relate to is that being a photographer, I guess, especially in the wedding space, is what I can speak to most, is that it's like exponential growth. Like it's like 1 month is like it feels like dog years. Does that make sense? Like or 1 year feels like dog years in
Yeah,
that like you live so much, you learn so much in just such a short
yeah.
amount of time. So taking your course, it honestly that's how I found it. That was your main question. I could go on and on about the course,
Mhm.
but when I found it, I knew that I needed to get back in alignment with like why I actually love to do weddings because I lost that somewhere along the way.
Yeah,
It
and are you
became
talking about CCM here? Because that was the first one you said you took, Crystal Clear
so
Marketing?
So I took Christian marketing and helped a lot with my copywriting in my website and
Mhm.
like how I wanted to, I guess, show
That's how
up
I Yeah.
and what's the word I'm looking for? To market myself really, just to, how I wanted to advertise like what I'm doing and like my style.
Mhm.
But especially the storytelling course, it
That's how
just
I
reminded me that each photographer can be unique, that every wedding is obviously so different and that they don't have to look the same. So
Mhm.
that's what attracted me to it initially because I was like, "Oh, I think that I need like I know I need something and I don't know what it was, but I trusted that this would send me in the right direction."
Got it. Yeah, so it just felt you intuitively felt that intuitive storytelling was for you.
Yes,
I do. I This
intuitively
is
I did.
how I buy courses in my education too. I just like when my intuition is like, yes. I'm like, okay. This is
No,
what I
same. I'm
want.
like,
This is what I need.
slap any price on it, and I'm like, my gut saying telling me yes, I should do
Exactly.
it.
Exactly.
It's like good and very dangerous sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Oh my gosh. So okay, so then you're at this point where you're like intuitively you're like, yeah, I this is what I need. I love what she the whole like philosophy on every wedding is unique and here is how to document it in a unique way while also doing it in a way that's you and you're using your style, right? So
Yes.
um how so tell me before we get into kind of like what you learned in there and the transformation that happened for you, where were you before? If you were to describe, because I know there's so many times in our photography careers where we're like, oh my God, yes, I have it figured out. Oh, yeah, I figured out this new way of shooting or this new idea and I'm putting it into place and I feel so confident. But then we get to this new place where we plateau and we're like, something's missing. I don't know what it is. So that's kind of where you were at. So, where, how did your like photography approach to weddings look like before intuitive storytelling?
I think back on it and I'm like, I don't even know what the hell I was doing without the storytelling approach. Like, I don't know how I managed. I guess if I could like recall just by memory, I feel like, especially during engagement sessions when there was far less going on, like wedding days, I knew how to work with people. I honed in on those skills throughout my entire life. So I was always comfortable on wedding days to go with the flow, and I didn't realize I was intuitive storytelling or intuitively shooting
Mhm.
weddings until you named it that, and I was like, oh, like I naturally do this, except I didn't realize that I could have like strengthened that skill and like really focused on it. So I was doing some method of that, always looking over my shoulder, like seeing while I was taking portraits, if I was solo shooting, while I was taking portraits of, let's say, groomsmen, and I saw the bride with her best friend behind me, I would like quick snap that picture rather than like just focusing on a list.
Yeah.
And I think the way that the way that I was shooting before was more list based because that's how I saw it done. It was showing up and getting, I know you've talked about this before too. Like I hated doing flat lays. And I hated like finding a tree to put the dress on
Yeah.
because like it's just like what people did. Like you have to get a shot of the dress and you have to like squeeze all this in the morning and you could be missing something in the room with real people. I hated that feeling of like rushing to like position the ring and make sure they stand upright. It would drive me crazy. And
Yeah.
then I would go back into the room and I felt like I missed everything, you know? And so I guess before I didn't know that weddings didn't have to be cookie cutter. And it sounds so funny. It's to me now, like I wish I could just like knock myself on the head because it's like, duh, like you didn't have to just do the industry standard thing. And that's what I defaulted to because that's all I knew.
But that's
So
it's oh my gosh, can we pause there for a second? I love that you brought that up because it's 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 actually not that you could have just, you know, slapped yourself in the head and been like, there's a reason you didn't realize it. And it's because what, like, whether we like it or not, our subconscious minds are constantly getting programmed with shit we don't even know we're getting programmed with. Right. And if we
mhm,
are we care so much to become like a successful photographer, we want to do the best for our clients. We also want to make sure we have the best images to share to then book future weddings. To us, the image at when we're starting, the images that we take, we put so much like importance on that that we actually subconsciously link it to if we don't get those shots, we are dead or dying or shunned or shamed or like death pretty much. So
yeah,
when something is important, like a lot, like I used to think, oh my gosh, I see flat lays and dress shots and detail shots everywhere on blogs and this and other photographers are doing it. I'm just getting started. I'm a wedding photographer. I don't know what I'm doing. Of course, it's important. Everybody else is doing it. It's part of the job description. I have to do it. I should do it. And if I don't, I am a failure as a wedding photographer. It's like all of
right.
that is what's happening in our subconscious minds. And so it's funny, it's part of the process. Um, and so only once we question something and we decide, well, is that of value to me and the people that I want to attract, for example? Or because there's nothing wrong with flat lays or wedding dress shots. It's like some photographers genuinely love that and the clients genuinely want that. And that's amazing. Like, do you be in that, like, love it and do it. But
Right.
for those that felt that stress feeling or that I wish I wasn't didn't have to do this, this is who we're talking to. It's like you don't actually have to and you can be really respected as an artist, as a photographer, and there are clients that don't want those shots. Even luxury clients. Like I just photographed a wedding in June that I'm like, "Oh my god, I need to submit this to Vogue. Like what is happening right now?" And she didn't care about any detail shots. She wanted like as like part of the documentation, but not like, "Oh, do a flat layer, make sure to get the rings, make sure to get my shoes." It's like, no, I want them documented just in the photos. They don't have to be detailed photos. Just like get it documented like as a story. And so it's
Absolutely.
possible with any type of client as well to approach it that way. So I love that you shared that.
Yeah. And you can look at, and you mentioned details, and I can piggyback off of that. The details can still be captured. Like if you have like a brooch on a bouquet or something sentimental about, let's say there's like a piece of fabric from your grandmother's dress sewn into your dress. Like those things can still be documented. Obviously, if it's like in the breast area, you're not gonna like
The
open up the
breast
dress.
area.
The breast of boob area.
That would be
You're
the
not gonna
breast
like,
shot. That would be the breast shot.
yeah,
The best. Haha. Again.
literally, it'd be like an R-rated gallery. All of a sudden, you can't send it to your family. Um, no, like there are ways to still document. I learned that there are ways to still document those details in artistic ways that don't have to be like directed by
Mm.
the, you know, I felt like I was lacking something because I wasn't doing great flat lays, but it was never that case at all. Like I just had to learn how to communicate to my clients that this is the shots, these are the shots that I tend to focus on. And like you've helped me in those questionnaires as well. It's like if there are anything else that any other shots that you want me to get, just let me know or
Mhm.
communicate that with me. Do you prefer to have solo shots or not? Because some couples
Mhm.
just want pictures of that. Like some people really don't care. And other couples are like, I would love a glam shot. And it's like, cool, I'll do that still, but it's like customizing it to what they need.
Yes, custom, exactly. And how has that helped you, like, show up as an artist now, like, as a photographer? Like, what comes to mind when you're like, "Okay, now I'm taking this custom approach." How do you feel now as a photographer, as a business owner with that?
I guess, could you elaborate on the question actually? What do you mean
Yeah.
by how has that mindset shift helped in like approaching wedding days?
Yeah, so for example, like, I used to the question comes up because I used to go into wedding days feeling super stressed, because I was approaching them how I thought I should, and I didn't have questionnaires. I didn't ask specific
Yeah.
questions, and so I went into every wedding day stressed, and this whole time I was like, "Why am I stressed? Why am I stressed?" And number 1, because I felt like I had to work off a shot list. Number 2, I think it was, like, this underlying stressful feeling because subconsciously I knew that I actually didn't take the time to get to know the couple or get to know how to tell the story in a way that's unique to them. I didn't take the time to get to know their loved ones pre-wedding, like in a questionnaire. Like, and that for
Yeah.
me, that has shifted. Like now when I show up to wedding days, I'm so confident and calm and at ease. I'm like, I know everything that's going on. I know she's connected with that person because of this reason. And I know, like, so it's shifted so much just with like that a custom approach. And when you come into wedding days more confident, you show up more confidently in your business grows. Like that's kind of like I guess what I would love to know is like, yeah, what was that shift for you of like maybe how you show up on wedding days and how you show up in your business, like after going through intuitive storytelling?
Yeah, that's okay. I totally understand where you're going with that now. Um, I am I'm with you. What you said, I could definitely just mirror that and say that that approach, especially the family and friends questionnaire, I had a version of that before, but I never made it I never made it my priority to memorize everyone's names until I took your course and I was like, oh, I've done this naturally. I'm really good at remembering names. So I'm blessed in that way. It came naturally to me. However, I didn't study them before, if that makes sense. Like I would meet people the day of and I didn't do the name association trick.
Yeah.
It was more like I met them and I'd be like, "Hi, Louise, how are you?" And then I would just remember. It'd be like stained in my memory. But then, if I didn't take the time to greet everyone and do that trick, it might have fallen off later in the day. And then I'm stuck being like, I would be stuck being like, "Oh, like I'm sorry, you with the flowers. They all have flowers, or you with the tie." Like, there's no.
Yeah.
It felt rude to be like, "Hey, you."
Yeah.
But now I definitely show up with more confidence. Like I feel I feel like I'm part of the family. Like it sounds so
Mm.
dramatic, but I walk in and I feel like I've known them because I've studied their names and I looked at their names 5 months prior, for
Mhm.
example. Like I've already known this family dynamic. I've known possible sensitive situations such as divorce or deaths in the family that I should be aware of.
Mhm.
And again, I already did those things, but I think having the system in place and like knowing that it's all in the same questionnaire and organized, that helped me immensely. I was cognizant of those things because I come from a pretty crazy family tree. So I was aware, but it makes me feel even more confident to know that I'm hitting all of those points and that it actually pays off because there's nothing more uncomfortable that this happened before in front of my eyes. A situation where a videographer on the wedding day, and it's not, there's not a funny part about it. The videographer didn't realize that the bride's father had passed years ago. And though the family was completely understanding, which most are, it was brought up like, oh, is this Christina's dad? Or like, we're doing a first look with dad. And it's like, okay, dad's not here. And someone had to say, like, yeah, actually he's not here with us. And it just like felt heavy and so uncomfortable. And that's why I even try to send out my wedding day guide to vendors, like closely knit vendors to say, like, hey, just a heads up if you haven't asked these questions yourself. this could help you, you know?
Wow.
Um,
Wow. Way to
because it
go
helps
above and beyond.
everyone.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Like, firstly, amazing for taking that extra step for the other vendors. That's so like heartwarming to hear. That's amazing. And that's like I've experienced that, what you just said, multiple times, maybe 20 times and in my
Yeah.
career. And like that's exactly why I strongly believe it's like our responsibility as storytellers to really know their story. Their story isn't just the wedding day. That's the superficial. Like, how about all of those people that have been there in their lives, like relationships through thick, through thin, through ups and downs. And every wedding day is different. Some people have 300 guests, and two-thirds of those people are like super more like, it's like hi, bye friends, right? Or whatever. But
Right.
still, like the core people are there. And like, I can't, that's exactly what I was like taking responsibility for is avoiding someone having to be triggered on their wedding day that someone they love isn't there because of someone not taking responsibility and making sure they have that information. So I'm so happy you brought that
Absolutely.
up too. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and it gives, like you said, it's our responsibility. There's so much weight and so much behind the scenes that goes into planning. And if if vendors, I'll just say generally vendors, because I think that it's multiple vendors, the responsibility should fall on, right? If they're not doing their work, then like you said, like it then becomes a cookie cutter. They're just showing up for the wedding day because it's like another one on their list. And I never wanted my couples to feel that way, which is why I try not to shoot double headers, but like obviously September, October, you gotta. Um, so yeah, like I just try my best to be intentional with every single wedding day. And this course definitely helped tenfold. Just bring more confidence in my planning and day of organization, just knowing my shit and not even questioning it because I've memorized I literally could probably draw out everyone's family tree. And then once I leave a wedding day, it's like pretty sick in my head. I still remember their names. Like
Yeah.
I'll like be blogging about them and I'm like, oh, that was Jerry. I loved him, you know?
Jerry.
Gotta love Jerry. He was great.
Why why does that name make me laugh? Maybe because of like Jerry Seinfeld or something? Because he's such a goof. I'm like,
Yeah.
Jerry.
Yeah, it does sound like an older name. I actually know a really handsome, great younger guy named Jerry. He's one of my he owns a fitness brand with his wife and I just did a shoe with him. So if he listens to this, it's gonna be hilarious because I'm making
Yeah.
fun of his name. But it's the first one that came to mind. he
That's
he
awesome.
brings he brings great clout to the name Jerry because he's not like other Jerrys.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh. I'm trying to think what else I wanted to ask. There was something else. Um, maybe it'll come back to me. But is there anything else that you wanted to share that's like top of mind where you're like, I just like I feel like so many photographers like need to dive into intuitive storytelling.
Yeah, I think like one we already kind of touched upon it. Another so this is actually another thing when when following my intuition of signing up for the course, I knew that I needed to change because of like the gut feeling, but also because I found myself during shoots, especially engagement sessions, not knowing what to do with all of my time. And your free podcasts, like the ones that I listened to based off of the Super Peels practice,
Hmm.
they were game changing for me too. And like in further like honing in on that skill and focusing on that, I look back at my previous work of like the more pose shots and I can't believe that I even sustained, you know, all of that time with a couple, just doing similar poses as like anyone else in front of different backgrounds.
Mm.
And it's so great to know that like it, I just am confident no matter who I show up with, even if I've never spoken with them on the phone or, they were just a completely quote unquote random couple that found me via Instagram or TikTok. It's like I have confidence that I can make them feel comfortable and that I won't be sitting behind my camera cringing, being like, oh, what do I do with them next?
Mm.
Like I'm so much more in the moment because I'm like, I just trust myself. Like I move around and even during the wedding day, it's like we don't have to use the time to maximize or rather, in order to get the most photos, you don't have to be taking photos the whole time. It's
Yeah.
like you could be talking to them and building in that connective time as
Mhm.
well.
Yeah,
And like,
and
so if you're
flowing
feeling, I guess,
through. Yeah.
yeah, and just like listening to your mind. So if you're listening and you're like, I'm feeling kind of burnt out from engagement sessions, or I am like not really inspired much, like just try to go into them thinking like, what more, like what's something new, brand new I could do with this couple? Or like, how could we really storytell and bring in elements of their lives into this shoot? Whether again, engagement session, wedding. Um, One example, I did an engagement session with a couple. From their questionnaire, I learned that they loved playing games together. Like they were really competitive people, loved board games. And so for their engagement session, we just played board games, like for the first half of it. Like they had one outfit, it was indoor, we played board games, and they're just so authentic, the photos, because they just were
Yeah.
naturally already doing that at home. So just things like that. Like I guess if you're feeling burnt out or lacking inspiration, I think that the course would be really helpful.
Yeah, because it also I love that you mentioned that and also tied it into engagement sessions. Because like, there's there's a way to get inspired by people's energy that's right in front of you, and then what you can create from that, it can be even better than you can have anticipated or expected. You know, if sometimes you can go into a shoot with certain expectations of like, I want to try this pose and for it to look like this and whatever. I have noticed that my work has stayed so fun and interesting, at least like to me over time, and it has evolved because every couple is so different. And if I plug into that uniqueness, then I only create images that I like could not have expected and that are so full of energy, and that energetic like signature in photos really does exist. And people I think can feel, if even if they don't know the people. I don't know about you, Haley, but sometimes if I look at a photo of a wedding couple, if something feels off or like I'm like, I don't even know these people, but this isn't them, you know? And it's like
Yeah. Oh
what
my
I
God. Yeah.
always try is to like be like, I want anyone who sees this photo and doesn't even know the couple to feel like that's so them. And
That is such a good way to put it. It's so obvious like, when you see an editorial type of pose and the couple just looks like they are internally, like they're internally crawling, like because they
yeah,
don't know how to be that or show up as that, but they thought that that would be what they wanted, right? It's like they
yeah,
go in with a Pinterest board and it's really not them and they don't know it.
yeah. Or it's not even, I don't even think it's about us as photographers needing to take that
Yeah.
responsibility and know that's not them. Because I can
Yes.
try a
Yeah.
prompt for like on a wedding day with a couple during portrait time that worked like magic and wonders and was so perfect for another couple and it brought out their energy. But then I try the same exact thing with someone else and it just falls so flat. And I'm just like, uh, and it's like, it's not even like I don't stay there because we have to experiment, right? But I don't stay there and then right away I'm like, "Okay, that was great." And then because I know I tune into what was missing from that prompt, I still keep the energy, but I say, "And now do this." And then the next thing is the thing that I've kind of rejigged to be them. And then those are the photos that like turn out because I'm in tune with their energy and how they're feeling about that, right? Oh, what
Yes.
we do is like freaking magic. Like there has to be so much, you have to be like tuned in energetically to really like create that for couples, I think. Like you have to be there. You can't be in your head. And this is where the
Absolutely.
tricky part comes in cuz like we also want to like try new things and experiment and that takes some brain power, but then oh man, what we do. It's like
I know. I saw this one. It was like a reel or something. And it was like me. It was like a person in a car, like sipping on coffee or something. And it was like me getting ready to walk into a wedding day, preparing to be like a therapist, a planner, a coordinator, a magician, all of these
yeah.
things. And I was like, that's so funny. Like every photographer probably feels that, right? Like it's the most powerful and energetically inspiring thing, but then you leave and you're like, "Oh, I'm drained of like so
Yeah.
many things. Like I'm depleted because you give so much energy, you
Mhm.
know? It
Yeah.
is crazy. I'm actually can I take a pause really quick? I need to turn
Yeah.
my air down because I am hot. I didn't realize
Yeah.
that I'd be so hot right now. So I need to just pause.
Podcasting
Okay.
creates sweats.
Yeah, no, like sweat, and I usually like it to sit like in my office. It's an ice box, and so I just have to fluctuate with that thing all day, and then watch in 5 minutes. I'm gonna be like absolutely
Too
freezing and
cold.
wrapped up in a blanket. Yeah, it's crazy. Um, what else was I gonna say? Oh, I wanted to hear. I'm gonna be the interviewer for a second. I want to hear
Yeah.
your favorite moment of or like one of them that comes to your head in your experience of listening to your intuition and like weaving your way in and out of rooms. Like let's say it's getting ready or cocktail hour and you're wondering where you should be. Maybe nothing's happening with the couple, but you're like, huh, like something's telling me to go here. What's a time that you produce like the most, I guess, surprising or heartwarming results, do you think, by listening to your intuition? Because I think that your listeners should hear this, especially because in your course, I found it to be so like nothing like I'd ever seen before. Like again, your approach of just truly listening and being like, huh, something told me to move in here, so let me just move, you know?
Yeah. It's oh, like it okay. I need to like the thing is, I'm like trying to tune into like a memory because if it's a abstract example, I actually can't tune into that energy because I'm not actually there. But a memory popped up of me being at a wedding. And then I'm like, of course, this is me talking. Like I'm just like looking up, remembering my memories. I'm like, I was at a
Your
wedding.
body,
Yeah,
your soul is like
I
leaving your body. You're
exactly.
like
I'm like,
lost in yourself.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
I see you lift off of your chair.
Yeah. But like I was oh yeah. I was about to go photograph the ceremony was about to start happening soon. Guests were arriving. And like logically, I was like, I want to document a quick shot of the ceremony space like empty because like you want that if you have the time for it, right?
Right.
And but then I'm like something was like no 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 go back to where the guests are arriving. I'm like but I already got photos of guests arriving. Like I'm like having this internal conversation with myself. I'm
You're
like
like
no no no
fighting with
I'm gonna
yourself.
go shoot the just a quick ceremony thing, and it was like maybe like a 300-meter dash that I would have to like run there, get it, come back. Like I'm running a lot on running days anyway. And then it was like, no, go back to the guests. I'm like, okay, fine. So I turn around, I'm like, okay, I'm here, like whatever. And then I see the grandma arriving in her wheelchair and the groom being like, Grandma, I have a corsage for you. And then I kind of like lowered my body. The light is like perfectly backlighting them, stunning, like they're glowing. And then I have the perfect perspective where no one is in front of me. So I see both of them. They're perfectly in the same plane. So I can keep them both in focus. And you just see the sides of both of their faces so you can see the emotion. And I'm just like waiting there, waiting there. And he's like putting the corsage on her, and her face just like melts down and cries. And he's smiling. So it's like I got him smiling, I got her crying. He's putting on the corsage with the beautiful light. And I'm like, this is why I was supposed to be here. And like,
Yeah.
it's like that has happened to me so often. And it's practice. Like intuition is literally practice. And um that has happened to me so often that over time you just trust it more and you recognize it more. And it those intuitive prompts also come in differently for different people. Some like have like some get like a voice in their head, but some also can get a feeling in their body. Like it's all different. Like it's fascinating. Intuition is so fascinating to study. um but I also just yeah, it just takes practice. And I'm trying to think, did that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it's so interesting. In my head, while you were speaking about that, I was thinking to myself, it's always grandmoms because I have two examples of grandmoms as well.
No way.
Grandmothers are just magical. They
They're just
really
law of
are. Like,
attracting that shit.
oh my gosh, and they're always on the VIP list. Like
Yeah.
always, like everyone's like, my grandma is my life, and I'm here for it. Um,
Yeah.
no, that's such a sweet story, and I love it. Kind of goes into like how you obviously in our photographers worlds, in a perfect world we would have a beautifully framed shot all the time, like with the sun behind them, or like
Mhm.
in a frame of a door artistically,
Yeah.
like you talked about in your course. But when those moments happen organically, it's like that little like, oh my god, yes, like in your
Yeah.
head, you're like, I did it. Like
When
this
it
is such a
all
good
lines
picture.
up, when like lighting, composition, and emotion line up, oh my god,
Yes.
it's like that's my
And
thing.
having I love having no, I love that. And I love having someone to share that with, like if you have a second shooter or like someone you're working with and geeking out together, being like, dude, look at this shot, Because then like you like other creatives get it. Um
That's
what I
awesome.
was gonna
Yeah.
say, I had two that come to mind too. I think I wrote these down. One of them was similar. It was before the ceremony started. I knew that this was really recently. It was just a month ago. The bride's mother had passed 10 years prior, and she was once her mom passed. She was raised, taken in by her grandmother. So her grandmother was her favorite person in the world, and also her uncle. So they were her core people. And I was obviously focusing, I knew that going in. So like I wanted to make sure that the grandmother was in the gallery a ton. And like I was essentially stalking her. And I think
Yeah.
that generation is like, what is this camera on me? Like, leave me alone, but they don't get it. And it's like
Yeah.
funny to me. I will
Yeah.
like stalk people. Um, so I was like nearby. I was like fly on the wall. She didn't know I was there. And um again, like listening, I was like, okay, they're not doing anything right now. Like all they're about to do is like go refresh and like get ready for ceremony, maybe like drink some water. Not much to take photos of. But I stayed there by the grandma because I was like, oh, she's sitting here, she's very open, and like something could happen, right? And the bride walked up to her and wanted to show her, it was a picture of her mother. So a picture of the grandmother's daughter on her bouquet to commemorate her. And she showed her it, and there's a few, it's like a series of pictures. I have the chills. She showed her it. The grandmother just like held the bouquet with her and looked up with like a big smile, but you could tell just profile that she was crying. Like you could tell that like it was like her cheeks hurt while she was smiling because she was about to cry. And getting that moment, I was like, oh my God, my heart. And then she like turns around and like takes a moment to herself and like it's just like smiling but crying.
Oh,
And
that's incredible.
that moment to me, like, especially having, I can't imagine like having lost your daughter at your granddaughter's wedding. Like that must have been such a heavy,
Yeah.
you know, emotion for them to experience, but also so beautiful that that's in their gallery now.
Yeah. That they got to experience that moment and it's preserved. That's powerful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like that's something that maybe Morgan, the bride, didn't remember happened. Or it might have been like a whirlwind moment. Like she might not have recalled that as vividly if it
Mhm.
hadn't been captured. So having those moments. And like you said, for your groom with the corsage, like giving someone a corsage nowadays is like it might not be that
Whatever.
special.
Yeah.
But having that image forever, like to have like you said, preserve
But
the
it's like
memory
when
with
it
your
become
grandmother.
when it is special to someone, it's like my intuition led me there because it was special to her. Like,
Absolutely. And you knew that. Like you knew what they'd be looking out for. So like, yeah, it really does help. And then
see if you didn't know the story, you would have been like logical ceremony time. They're not doing anything. It's all done, and you would have dipped and not captured it, right?
exactly.
Exactly.
Exactly. And
Exactly.
that's
That's
why
where
I
our
have
responsibility comes in.
yes, and it's why like when you talk about how you do mostly solo weddings,
Mhm.
I I'm jealous because I wish I could do more of them. My issue is that not my issue, the blessing is that I can have a lot of Irish Catholic families, really big wedding days. And so logically, it makes most sense for me to recommend my couples for like hundreds of people, like 150 plus, to do second shitters. And I've absolutely lucked out with a great team. But I struggle for like next year and year after, like whenever we're all growing alongside each other, like building a team of people who also who I can trust that much,
Sure. Mhm.
which is like it's like a lot of time and investment in like delegating that responsibility, knowing that we can handle it ourselves, but also just hoping that other photographers who work with you, care just as much or have the bandwidth to look at something as simple as a wedding day guide that could make or break someone's experience.
Yeah, yeah, and you know what? One thing I'll just say is like live little coaching moment. you don't have to hope for anything. You can find and call in and attract your like perfect fit second shooter who will be just as passionate to memorize and care to memorize those names as much as you. And that could be your
Yeah.
standard. Like,
Yeah.
because if you are having a second shooter, like, first of all, if two things. If you are a little jealous and you would prefer to shoot on your own, you'd have to dive into that and understand, like, is it really what I want? Or like, is it really what I value? Is it really what I think would deliver the best experience from how I shoot? Um,
Right.
know that it's still possible with like 150 people weddings plus because like, again, they're gonna give you the core people, you do the research, and all those
Yeah.
additional plus ones, they might not even care to have documented, and you can still get that dancing photos and all that. I personally feel comfortable documenting wedding days, 250, 300 people, and then maybe like 300 or 350 plus. That's when I would do a second shooter, but I never book those weddings anyway. Like, so I
Yeah.
that's why I shoot solo. So that's something just for you to think about. Like, um if you think that that's what will help you work your best, I know I work my best because if I have a second shoe, they're in my way and I can't get the shot. I can't go with the flow of the story intuitively as well. I just know that. And so,
Yeah.
but you might actually thrive with a second photographer and you might actually be able to train them and have someone be, you can train someone to be there consistently for you and book them throughout the season.
Yeah.
And in Omi, because you're in Omi, you can just learn how to create a process for that. So if they ever move on and do their own weddings, it's already a process and it's easier to train the next person. You don't have to spend your time doing that. So it's a
Yeah.
quick thing to think about because there's nothing you have to do.
Yeah.
It's only what you want to do and you what you feel will deliver the best experience for your couples.
Yeah. That's such a good point. Thank you for the free coaching.
Yeah, I had
Um,
had to.
I think that yeah, like next year I have it's funny that you say like organically attract because I had someone um drop into my email a photographer in Philly looking to second shoot more. And she was like, I love your style. I'm obsessed. I would love to work for you. And I was like, this feels really serendipitous. Like looking at my 2024 calendar, I'm like, damn, I have a lot of second shooter names. And we were meeting up for coffee tomorrow. So I was like, I hope that this works out. She sent me her portfolio. Her work is incredible. She said, I'm pretty sure she's like a no photographer. And I'm like, damn, because like very amazing work.
That's okay.
Um,
And then the serendipity of us having this conversation and me talking to you about maybe this is why it didn't work out months ago. I was
I
just
know
again,
what
I intuitively like was like, nope, I need to address this right now with Haley. Let me talk to her about this.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. I'm like
wow, you're meeting
really
with her
open.
tomorrow. That's amazing.
Yes. I'm really open to our conversation and hoping that it sticks. I get very I guess I get my hopes up really high easily. And so I just obviously I'm going in, I'm not going in with crazy
Mhm.
expectations, but just based on our email conversation, you can like feel people's energy. And
Yeah.
she seems like a very um ambitious person, which matters to me. So
Yeah.
yeah, I hope that it goes well.
I
I'm
love
excited.
that. And I think if you have that excited feeling, it's I don't think it's like you getting your hopes up too high. Because I have the same experience. I think it's just like
Yeah.
a some kind of like alignment energy that we just get excited about. And then it's kind of like we
Yeah.
approach it like, okay, I'm really excited, but just in case I'm just gonna ask the right questions and make sure. But then if at the end of that it's like, okay, fuck it, I'm just gonna keep in my excited energy and like let's do this, right?
Right. And that's the danger because like, if we talk about like investments or like whether it's money or time, like we definitely would be the type of people to be like, all right, let's
Come
do
on.
it. And then
Yeah,
just like hire anyone. Not, I mean, not really. We do the research, put in the time.
exactly.
But I guess that's why I knew I wasn't built for corporate because I just like love people too much. And I'd be like, all right, like try to be everyone's best friend. Um, so yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting with her. And I do agree with you that it doesn't have to be like there's no rules. Like I could however I feel the story is told best can still work. It amazes me that you do weddings by yourself of like that many people though. Like you must be running like a track star
Oh yeah,
on
I
those wedding
love
days.
it. It's like, oh, I'm just so in it. I'm hustling. I'm like tuning it, like just like I taught into I keep calling it IS in my head and then intuitive storytelling because I call it IS for short in the back end. But
Yeah.
I'm just like tuning my radio to every person, every situation, knowing where to be when. And I'm just like, literally, I feel like a boat floating in the ocean. And I'm like, I'm going here now. I'm going here now. And it's like so
Yeah,
fun and fluid. And like, I get so many things talk. It's just, yeah, it's just what
that's
feels good to
awesome.
me. And that may change. Like, I think I heard someone say this. I reserve the right to change my mind anytime I want to. And I'm like, that is such an
Ooh.
empowering statement because there's been so many times where I'm like, well, this is just what I've said I do now for so many years. And like now I just that's who I am and that's how I have to be. Right. But it's like, no, we evolve. And so who knows? Maybe in 2 years that'll be different. Maybe I will train a second shooter to do that exact thing. And maybe I'll have an associate team. I don't know, but that's where I am right now and what fits right now. And that's all we can do. Right.
Yeah, yeah. It's so interesting too because we have to, as wedding photographers, we're planning so far in advance. Like every
Mhm.
photographer does it differently with like opening up their books for, let's say, 2025 in this
Yeah.
case. And like right now, I'm in my first full year of doing this full time, and I'm feeling that pressure of like, oh my gosh, 2025 feels so far away, and I, I'm hired. I have a business consultant, so I'm working with her to talk about that,
Mhm.
to make sure I feel aligned because my gut is like, I don't know, like I don't know what 2025 looks like. I'm scared, and so I don't know. It's just interesting. While we're talking, I have this sticky note. We need to slow down and speed up
Yes.
on my computer. And a
From
funny
Omi?
anecdote. So yes, so these are from Omi, and if you aren't familiar with Omi, if you're listening,
Mhm.
Sarah tells us at the beginning to like for mindset shifts to like put these different sticky notes or quotes as reminders for ourselves. That one was my favorite one. And the funny story is like I had these all over. I think I took off most of them, but I had these over all over my desktop screen at one point. And my boyfriend Brendan, who's not in the entrepreneurial creative world, he's like in real estate at corporate. He comes in and he started like like poking fun at me for having all these quotes. He's like, "What do you think you are? Like this just this inspirational? Like what are all these?" He was like, "100% of responsibility or accountability,
Oh,
100% of the
yeah,
time." And I'm just like, "Leave
100%.
me alone."
I love that you put that one up too. Oh my god. It's just
Yeah, he was like, "What are these?" I was like, "Leave me alone. I'm taking a course."
oh, you're so good. Like, you literally are a star student because you put shit into action. Like, you just are an action taker, and that's why anyway, amazing. Yeah, keep
It
going.
was
What were you gonna say?
overwhelming. I would 100% not recommend binging your podcast because like I would listen and be like, I have so many action items to do, and then
Yeah.
my list was just insane of things to do.
Yeah. But yeah, you have the slow down to speed up one. Were you gonna
Yes.
say something with that?
That one I have here, it reminds me also when I'm recording things to not speak so fast. So
Mm.
if I've been speaking fast, I'm not following my sticky note,
Oh,
but it's
that's
a good
hilarious.
reminder.
You haven't. You're totally good. It's so funny.
Yeah.
I totally forgot we're podcasting. We're just talking, and it's exactly what I want podcasts to feel like.
I know. I so knew we'd be friends. Like the second I started listening to your podcast, and this is obviously an effective podcast, right? Like you listen to someone's podcast so often, you're like, wow, we're friends because you're in my car with me and you're
Yeah.
cooking dinner with me, you know?
Yeah, and you just find out all the shit you have in common. Yeah, it's so funny.
Yeah. Like when we email, I'm like, so how's Rory? Like just asking about life or like, how's Ben? And it's just hilarious. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love everything you've shared. I think we've like given so much great insight. Like whether someone does sign up for intuitive storytelling or not, they're would have learned so much and had perspective shifts. And actually I think one last question, unless you have anything else you want to share. Yeah, is there anything else you feel like you want to share? Do you feel complete on your end?
I feel complete except for one other funny story that I think you'll love to
Yes.
hear.
Yeah.
So the name memorization trick, right?
Mhm.
We talk about, I don't know if you want to divulge all the goods here, but essentially just your name trick of memorizing names that you shared in the storytelling course.
Mhm.
It's association, right? So when you go into a wedding day, you meet each person, and as you meet them, you say in your head, okay, like this is, this is Sarah. I have a best friend named
Jerry.
Sarah. This is Jerry, the fitness Jerry. So like he's a fitness coach in my head. So this one day I went in, I was second shooting for a photographer. And so I didn't know the name well, but I went in and I still introduced myself to every groomsman. And I was like, hi, went through the whole my whole spiel. And then I met this guy named Jeff. And I was like, oh, Jeff. And as I was like saying it, he saw that my wheels were turning and he's like, what? And I was like, oh, my ex-boyfriend's name's Jeff. So I'm gonna associate you with my ex-boyfriend. And he like started to giggle. And he was like, oh, that's great. So I was like, you're my ex, Jeff. And then I like moved on.
Oh, that's
And then
amazing.
later in the day, this is like the best part. He comes up to me. He forgets my name, but still I remember all the groomsmen's name. He tapped me on the shoulder during the reception and he goes, Jeff's ex-girlfriend. And I was like, yes. And he goes, could you get a picture of us over here? And was like cracking up at himself. I was like, absolutely. I was like, I never thought that I'd be referred to as Jeff's ex-girlfriend, but I love it. At least you knew how to
That's so
approach me.
fun, and it just breaks the ice. Like,
I know.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Even if he only knew me as Jeff's ex-girlfriend, I knew that he was Jeff. So that's all that matters.
that's so fun. Oh, that just makes wedding days so much more fun, where you could just laugh and connect because it could be, scary. We're meeting a ton of new people. They're meeting a photographer that's literally has their eyes on them all day. It's like, let's
Yes,
just like,
angles on them at all points. Like
yeah,
it's
yeah,
vulnerable.
yeah. Like, let's just like break some ice, and that's amazing. I love that you just went ahead and just said that. That's so good.
What was your other question? Sorry,
Okay.
derailed.
Oh no, it's perfect. All the funny stories are welcome here. I'm trying. Okay, so for those that are like literally on the fence, they're like, okay, I think intuitive storytelling is what I want. Like, let's just say there's a photographer who is like dreaming of becoming more of like a documentary storytelling photographer, but they feel like they have to document perfect photos with perfect backgrounds and like go with the shot list, and they're really like they want to like move towards that like storytelling intuitive style, but they're just like scared, and they want to dive into the course but they're not sure. Like, what would you tell them if they're like they want to but they're on the fence?
I guess the first thing that came to my head, which is what I'm gonna roll with, is if you think about whether you've been married or not, if you're a photographer and you haven't been married, like myself, we don't have the experience of looking through our own wedding galleries, right? And understanding which ones we're gonna preserve the most or which ones were the most meaningful to us. But if you could try to put yourself in the shoes of your couples and think, how would they want to remember their day? And also, how would they want to remember their story for other photographers, whether that's family or engagement sessions or what have you? It's like, what is truest to them that number one will make them feel the most comfortable in their own story, in their own wedding day, in their own relationship, being with their partner, right? Because you can assume that a couple might be comfortable because, they look a certain way on their Instagram or that, they're really outgoing, but you don't know the way they're dynamic in front of a camera because it's so much different. And so I guess the way that the thing that helped me, like the mindset shift, is that if a couple is flipping through a gallery, do you really think that people, again, no shame about detail shots of flat lace, they're gorgeous and they have their space. But if you weigh the importance or the sentimentality of a photo of shoes from Sam Edelman versus a picture of of the groom handing a grandmother a corsage as she's entering the wedding day, which do you think the couple would appreciate more, and how can you adjust your approach on a wedding day to just try to maximize the in between moments?
Yes,
Because
good way of saying
people
that.
and
Maximize.
yeah, and couples, and again, most couples don't have the experience of being married, right? If it's their first wedding. So they might think that they want to follow this approach, and you might be revolutionary in your description of how you shoot. And so like as you practice more, like anyone else, like as I started to do it more and I had gallery proof to show how the full gallery comes to be in the end, you become so much more sound in your decision and your approach because you know that the couple saw this gallery and it's like everything they've ever wanted and more. Like they didn't even know the shots you were going to get because you were so intuitively there in their wedding day and not worried about I guess, comparing yourself to what other people's galleries look like, or
Yeah.
trying to fit any standard, because it doesn't matter. Like your course taught me to just like basically throw industry standards out the window, because and in the best way. Like, not obviously, again, they have their place. It's good for starting photographers, but
Mhm.
it made me realize so much more, that you could have so much fun during a wedding day, and that it doesn't have to be stressful, because if you go in knowing what you're doing and exactly where you should be, it's possible. And it's possible to never be burnt out by weddings, because you're going in and enjoying people like human beings. It's so much more than just like a wedding or money coming in. It's like
Yeah.
the emotion of it all is what really matters.
Oh my gosh, mic drop. That was like that gave me chills. I felt like I was listening to an inspirational like speech, like the way you worded it, all that, and especially how you said it's about maximizing. It's about how well we can maximize the amount of those special moments we can document. I don't even want to say anything further. Like I want to leave it there because you just said everything with so much heart and it's so aligned with exactly what I my intention was around the course. And I'm just so grateful that like you took that and you're putting that out there into the world and that's creating a positive ripple effect into your couples and their families and their experience of the photos that they're going to hold on to generation for generations to come. Like this is a huge ripple effect you're creating. So wow, thank you for trusting me and for like putting everything into motion to like create this experience for people.
Thank you for tying up your entire life's work into a course, because you're the one, like, I know that I'm doing the work too, but in terms of like ripple effect and reach, I'm sure that I am just one of many people who have been impacted by not only the course, but just little tidbits of advice that you've given, as you share on Instagram or your podcast. Like, that's amazing. And that's eventually my goal too, is to just like spread the word to more photographers once they get there, and kind of change the industry standard, I guess, because like screw those standards, they suck.
Yeah, that's exciting. I can see that for you. And industry standard again. I think I have a whole podcast episode on this. I'm
You
like
do. I've
why you
listened to
should follow
it.
industry standards. And it's like I explain how they have a place and they are created. New standards are created from previous ones being broken. And that's how we continue to evolve. And
Mhm.
some have their place, but some don't. And it's just so ever evolving. And one way industry standards are broken are when people stay true to themselves. Like broken in a good way. Not I don't want to say broken, evolved. Like one way industry
Yes.
standards can evolve for the greater good of everyone is when people really tune into what feels good and the best useful way they can create a positive impact through their work. And it's like instead of being
Yeah.
like, well, this is what other photographers are doing, putting blinders on and being like, well, what's something unique I can offer that just comes from my gut? Like, I don't know why, but I want to offer this or I want to ask this question to my couple. And that's how shifts start. And
Yeah.
yeah. So be your unique snowflake or yeah.
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 And I think like it's not said enough that we all need each other. Like, it is said enough, but it's almost overdone. Like, it's, like, find your tribe, or build a community, or find a business consultant. It's so much easier said than done. Like, I didn't know how to find it. People like landed in my lap. Like, your
Mm.
podcast landed in my lap during the best time possible, because I was at a boring business conference. And otherwise, though, like, I guess my advice would be to like just ask questions. Like, I know that you're so available via DMs. Like, we've DM'd a ton, and like I would be available. Just if you have some sort of thought and you don't know where to go with it, or you're itching to do something and you're not sure what, like, just talk to people and like
Mhm.
put it out in the world, whether it's journaling or, again, conversing with other creatives. Like, I just think that that's what could also make shifts too. And we don't know where to start sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. And the the dichotomy and the polarity of life, which is like find like learn from someone who is 10 steps ahead of you and like who you admire and resonate with and want to evolve, like aspiring to be not like them, but like have similar things they have or experiences they have. But then also at the same time, put your blinders on, do you, right? It's that art of living in between those two, like, how do you call it? That spectrum, those endpoints, and the art of living in
Yeah.
neutrality between that. And the way to live in
Mhm.
that neutrality is through intuition, because it's like
Yeah.
I've learned from people before, but I've intuitively taken that resonates with me. That feels good in my body. That doesn't feel like pressure. That feels exciting. I'm going to take that and apply it. Those things that they mentioned, I think that works well for them and that's amazing. But for me, it creates some kind of stress in my body. It doesn't feel right. So it's okay. I'll leave that out of my formula. And then that's how we create our own unique formulas over time. Like, so at least
Yes.
that's what's worked for me. It's not like power of neutrality, because it can be a mind fuck sometimes. Learn from others. Put your blinders
Absolutely.
on, right? Like,
Yeah. And just the intuition, like you said, it's practice. It takes so much
mm,
practice. And some people might be like, I don't know how to listen to my body. Like, I don't know what you're talking about, Sarah. But I don't know, like it does just take intention and
yeah, we all have
practice. So
it. Yeah, we all have it. Some of us are
yeah.
just like more in tune with it, and some of us just learn to tune into it. It's really cool. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I
Yeah.
feel like we could keep talking forever.
I
But I'm
know.
like,
I
I
know. Let's
literally,
make
I
this
was
a
like,
4 hour episode.
did a mic drop, beautiful speech, and I'm like, okay, let's finish it there. But then we just kept having these philosophical conversations, which was amazing.
I know.
Oh
I
my
know.
gosh. Thank you so much, Haley. Like, where can everybody connect with you if they're like, oh my gosh, Haley, that was amazing, inspiring, you're amazing. Ah.
Oh, people can find me on Instagram and on TikTok at Perennial Feels. Perennials with one R and two N's, and then feels as in feelings. I didn't think about how hard it'd be to say that when I made the account. It's one of those situations. Um, and like you, Sarah Monica, Sarah without the H, Monica with a K. Similar
Yeah.
thing. You have to say it every time.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, and that's my website too. And so if you're interested in following me or reaching out, I'm always here.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time and sharing everything. So grateful for you. This was so much fun. Yay! Thank you so much for hanging out with me and tuning into this episode. If you got value out of it, please feel free to message me on Instagram at Sarah Monica Photo. That's Sarah no H, Monica with a K photo, to let me know. I get so freaking energized hearing from others that what I've said has had a positive impact on their lives. Also, make sure to hit subscribe to the Shine and Thrive podcast to never miss an episode. I'm so grateful for you, and I'm sending you all the productive vibes your way so you have the best week ever.